good, y'all? It's Classic MMA here, and today I'll be doing my full card predictions for UFC 324, Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett, which will be happening this Saturday. First card of the year was pretty stacked. We got Gaethje, Paddy, Sugar, Yadong, Waldo, Derek Lewis. We got some great fights on here, I won't lie. So let's just kick it off with the first prelim of the night. We got Ty Miller versus Adam Fugit. High-level MMA fight right here, y'all. On the side of Ty Miller, we got this guy making his debut off Contender Series, where he put on a pretty nice, masterclass of a performance, looked promising, and seems to be a fighter who just knows how to pick his shots. Doesn't have a ton of finishes, wins a lot by decision, but he clearly has power, and a lot of the shots he's landing on Jimmy Drago in this fight were pretty big, I won't lie. He's an undefeated prospect, been beating some guys, shown a well-rounded skill set. Not the highest level guys, but some guys. Then on the side of Adam Fugit, we got the average UFC veteran the UFC keeps around to lose to prospects. They fed him to Michael Morales, Islam Dulatov, and Mike Malott, all of whom he got finished by. He does have a couple of sneaky wins, though, over Josh Quinlan, who sucks, and then a win over whoever this guy is. Never heard of him in my life. Yusako Kinoshita. So my final prediction here, it's a pretty easy one. I'm picking the minus 420 favorite out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Give me Ty Miller by round 2 TKO. This is a pretty easy fight to pick, if I'm being honest, as Adam Fugit has a terrible chin, and he gets finished nearly every fight. And while Miller's fight on the Contender Series went to decision, he still landed some crazy shots, and I'm not joking. Watch that fight back, tell me those shots don't put out Adam Fugit. Come on, man. Give me Ty Miller by round 2 TKO. Okay, now the next fight of the card, we got some really high-level MMA here. Ricky Turcios versus Cameron Smotherman. Just an absolute holy mid-off of fighting. On the side of Ricky Turcios, we have a fighter who's pretty mid, I won't lie, as he could arguably be 0-5 in the UFC, with his 2 wins being by split decision over, I believe, Kevin Nadidad, who's trash, and then Brady Heinsten's actually a pretty decent win, but still split decision that he probably shouldn't have won. And he's honestly just not great at anything. He gets beat up on the feet, and he isn't a good grappler either. Only thing he has going for him is decent BJJ, as we saw in that Raw vs. Jr. fight, is he almost subbed him. He's offensive BJJ, not defensive BJJ. His defensive BJJ stinks as he got subbed, but And he's coming off the loss to Sopaj, who's a pretty decent prospect, but still, he just keeps on losing. Ricky Turcios is not good. Then on the side of Cameron Smotherman, we have another really mid fighter. He's 1-2 in the UFC. He's currently on a 2-fight losing streak to Surrey City and Ricky Simone, which aren't bad losses, but aren't great ones either. Smotherman actually has a bit of talent, though. He's actually a really good striker. He just lacks any grappling whatsoever, and pretty much loses to anyone who can take him down. So, I don't know. My final prediction, not confident in this all, but just give me Cameron Smotherman by points at decision. That's probably makes sense. I'm not confident in this. I have no confidence in this, I won't lie. But as Smotherman could just get grappled the whole fight by Turcios, as he knows how to grapple, but Smotherman is the way better striker, and if he keeps this on the feet, which he should, as Turcios isn't a great wrestler, I feel Smotherman should be able to piece him up on the feet and win a clean 29, 28, 30, 27 decision. Now on to the next fight of the card, we got Josh Hockett versus Denzel Freeman. We got some heavyweight slop. Let's go. It's what I live for. My bad. Don't mind me getting hyped over heavyweight slop. It's a pretty fun one. On the side of Josh Hockett, we got an interesting fighter to say the least. He's basically a fat Colby Covington with the cornball stuff he says on the mic. But skill-wise, he's actually pretty good as he's a former NFL player and has really good wrestling and showed KO power in his debut over Gimenez, showing that he can scrap on the feet. He's actually not bad, though. Can wrestle, can do some things. Then on the side of Denzel Freeman, we have a pretty decent heavyweight, as he showed a lot of promise in his regional run in the LFA, which had me thinking he was going to be really good in the UFC. But after that absolute staring contest where neither guy did any damage versus Marique Boulgeau, I don't know if I'm too sure about Freeman actually being any good. So for my final prediction, give me Josh Hockett by round 1 TK. Or let's do round 2. Round 2 TKO. I think Freeman can survive a round. Yeah, Hockett should win this pretty easily, as Freeman isn't bad, but he just didn't show me enough to even think about picking him. as Hawkins should be able to take him down with ease and probably finish him with ground and pound. And even on the feet, I mean, Denzel Freeman's so gun shy and refuses to throw anything that Josh Hawkins could probably catch him if he needed to. So give me Josh Hawkins by round 2 TKO. Next fight on the card. Oh, this is just an Apex fight in the making right here. This would be an Apex co-main event. We got Michael Johnson, the guy who flips a coin whether he's going to win or lose every time, and Alex Hernandez, who has had the most up and down UFC career known to man. On the side of Michael Johnson, we have a fighter who you would look at his 24-19 record and think he's absolutely awful, but he actually has an insane resume. I mean, MJ has wins over Dustin Poirier and Tony Ferguson, which is crazy. And somehow at the age of 40, MJ's on a 3-fight win streak. I mean, he's coming off the win over Daniel Zellhuber, who looked promising in the Rebovich fight, and was like an 800 favorite over MJ. Beat Otman Azatari, who isn't the Azatari. I don't know to say this guy's name, but he's pretty bad. But you know, still got chinned by MJ. And then he beat Darius Flowers too, yeah. So you know, he's on a win streak. Then on the side of Alex Hernandez, we have a fighter who was at one point was seen as, you know, kind of like the biggest fraud in the UFC. I mean, when he lost to Cowboy and then just kind of floated around the division for a few years, everyone forgot who he was. He tried featherweight, got finished there, and was just kind of mid. Recently, though, he's been on a run, I won't lie. I mean, ever since his last loss to DeMar Jackson by split decision, he moved back up to lightweight, picked up the win over Austin Hubbard, which, you know, is a split decision, not pretty, and then picked up a win over Kurt Hallbaugh. Decent wins, you know. And then, you know, coming off this is where he got the crazy upset over Chase Hooper, who was, you know, on like a 6-fight win streak, and then just beat Carlos Diego Ferreira, who's, you know, former ranked guy. So Alex Hernandez is actually on a decent run here. So my final prediction, you know, this is a tough fight to pick, as MJ is always live to pull off an upset, but I think Alex Hernandez is gonna chin him. I just feel like MJ's been chinned so many times in the UFC that I think that Alex Hernandez, he is pretty hard hitting, and he fights a lot smarter now. He sticks and moves a lot and picks his shots really well, and I think that MJ will eventually just run into a big right hand and get KO'd. So give me Alex Hernandez by knockout in the second round. Next on the card, we got our first ranked matchup of the card. In Alex Perez versus Charles Johnson. Pretty sick fight here, I won't lie, for flyweight. On the side of Alex Perez, we have genuinely one of the most confusing fighters on the rosters. This dude is either randomly inactive, like he was these last 2 years. Dude refused to fight for like 2 years. Dude just disappears. Look, fights Pantoja 4 years ago. Dips and fights Makayev. Dips for 4 years and fights Makayev. Then he randomly decides to fight 2 months later. And then a month later. And then just takes up a whole year off and fights Aso Almabayev. Like, this guy makes no sense. But I will say Alex Perez is definitely not the best stage of his career, as he's 1-4 in his last 5. But I will say, he did look really good against Asu Almabayev. Like, he was whipping Asu Almabayev before he got stuck in that guillotine choke. Like, he was actually giving Asu belt. And on the side of Charles Johnson, we have a pretty underrated fighter, honestly, as he literally has a win over the current champion, Joshua Van. And should be on a 6-fight win streak, because for some reason, the UFC hasn't overturned this loss to Ramazan Temirov, even though this dude is literally banned for the next year because of, you know, performance-enhancing drugs. Like, come on. So for my final prediction, give me Charles Johnson by a round 2 knockout. Or not, round 3 KO, I think. I think Alex Perez will actually have a lot of success early in this fight, as Charles Johnson is a pretty slow starter and can definitely lose rounds. And I also think Alex Perez looked really good against Asu Almabayev. But I just think later in the fight, it's an Alex Perez thing to happen. The guy's gonna get finished in the 3rd round. Charles Johnson's probably gonna land an uppercut or something similar to what he hit on Van and just put him out cold. Give me Charles Johnson by round 3 TKO. Next on the card, we got Nikita Krylov versus Bukowskis. Hey bro, that was not the. But Modeskis Bukowskis, not Babowskis, whatever I could have possibly been calling him. But Nikita Krylov. I mean, on the side of Krylov, dude, we got a guy. This guy was actually seen as the dark horse of light heavyweight. Is KO'd Gustafsson, won a decision kind of wrestling masterclass over Volkan Oezdemir. Then 3 months later, comes back and subs Ryan Spann. It looks like he could low-key be fighting for a belt after a couple more wins. But then he just takes 2 years off, goes to fight in the Ukraine war or something. Comes back against Dominic Reyes, runs into a counter left and just gets slept out cold for the masses. Thank you for that, by the way. We always love it when my GOAT Reyes pulls off a win, but you know. I mean, he just hasn't. Krylov's just looked awful though. And then he comes back not even 4 months, 3 months later, fights Bogdan Guskov and gets chinned out cold again without even attempting a takedown or trying to use his grappling. Just gets chinned. Like, I don't know. Krylov's definitely on a bit of a downfall here. Then on the side of Modestas Picauskas, we have a fighter who was honestly seen as pretty mid when he entered the UFC and was even cut at one point. But since coming back, he's on a 4-fight win streak with 2 finishes and always kind of finishing all cans. Beating all cans and winning robberies over Ian Cutelaba. We don't talk about that. I mean, he's still on a 4-fight win streak in light heavyweight, which is something, I guess. My final prediction here, I'm picking Modestas Picauskas by round 1 knockout. I just feel that Krylov is really washed at this point of his career. It doesn't really have anything left to give. I mean, the guy has over, 41 pro fights. And he just keeps on running into his last 2 fights. He's running into punches and getting chinned, and 6 months later now. Like, I think Krylov is way more skilled than Modestas Picauskas. I just don't trust him to not run into a punch and get chinned. So I'm gonna pick Modestas here. So give me Modestas Picauskas by round 1 TKO. Alright, second to last fight on the prelims. We got a pretty fun one here. We got Atiba Gaethje versus Andre Puliev. On the side of Atiba Gaethje, we got one of the most interesting prospects in the UFC, as he's an absolute tank of a man. I mean, just look at the build this guy has. I don't know how he makes 185. And he has insane KO power. I mean, he's basically a middleweight Francis Ngannou who's just been destroying everyone he's fighting. I mean, look, ever since coming to the UFC, finished Medina. Not a good fighter, but finished him quick. Finished Valentine and finished Tristan Vines. Like, that was crazy. Dude literally threw Tristan Vines down and dude just, like, collapsed from, I don't know, pressure or something. That was hilarious, yeah. On the side of Andre Puliev, he's not bad either. He's a pretty decent rangy kickboxer. He's decently durable, and he usually relies on his reach and toughness to win in fights. As he showed in his last fight versus Nick Klein, where he kind of got beat up in the first round, but then comes back and lands that sick body kick and finishes him with that. So I'm just gonna jump to my prediction here. The pick is Atiba Gaethje. I'm not even fenced at this one. Atiba Gaethje is winning this by round 1 knockout. Well, this is probably Gaethje's toughest fight in the UFC yet, as at least this guy actually has a win in the UFC. But I just think Gaethje should still get this done with relative ease. As everything Puliev needs to win here, Gaethje is better at. He has the same long reach. Puliev likes to rely on his toughness. You rely on your toughness for Atiba Gaethje, you're getting slimed, sent to the shadow realm, homie. Like, I don't know. I think Atiba Gaethje should be able to find a quick KO shot in the first few minutes. Now, to main event our prelims, we got Umar Nurmagomedov versus Davison Figueiredo. On the side of Umar, we have, a Dagestani wrestler who's obviously Khabib's cousin. Besides his obviously, great ground game, though, he also has a very high-level kicking game and is overall just a very good fighter, with his only loss being to Merab in a close fight, and is coming off a decent win over Mario Batista, where he got dropped but showed insane recoverability and, basically mostly put on a wrestling masterclass. And then on the side of Fege, we have an absolute legend of a fighter, man. I mean, he's a former flyweight champ, had those absolute wars with Brandon Moreno. And he's moved up to bantamweight in the last couple years and to chase another title, and well, he hasn't gotten close to that yet. He still picked up a couple of solid wins over Chito Vera and Rob Font. I know that I can't find that here, and he's also coming off a decent win over Monto Jackson, absolute boring fight, staring contest, but he still picked up the win. For my final prediction, yeah, I'm taking Umar by points here. Even though I don't agree with Umar being, a minus 1,600 favorite, I still think he should get this done in relative ease, as Figgy's just not in his prime anymore, and while always has the power, which is a bit worrying with Umar's questionable chin, I still think he should be able to put on a wrestling masterclass and win a clean, 30-27 decision over Figgy. Alright, kicking off the main card, we got Arnold Allen versus Gene Silva. Pretty sick fight here. On the side of Arnold Allen, we have a very high IQ technical striker who's pretty underrated. I mean, he's 11-2 in the UFC, with his only losses being to Max Holloway and Movsar Evloev in a fight that he arguably could have won. And after taking a year and a half layoff, after beating Giga. He's back, and he's gonna fight an up and coming guy in Gene Silva. Now on the side of Gene Silva, we have a fighter who last year he was seen as a future champion by everyone, as he was just destroying people with his striking with ease. However, that was all stopped after he lost to Diego Lopez by that spinning elbow in the second round. In a fight where honestly before that in the second round, like obviously he got mounted and nearly got put out in the first round, but in the second round Silva was out striking him like 30-10. Like he was doing pretty well before that. And now coming off that loss, gets another chance to move up in the rankings, fight, a top 6 guy in Arnold Allen and try to pick up a win here. Now for my final prediction, pretty easy pick here. I got Gene Silva by round 1 KO. I honestly think this should be a pretty easy fight for Silva. As yes, Allen is good, and I could see him mixing in takedowns. I just feel Silva is so much more better and more powerful of a striker, and is just so unlike anyone Allen's ever fought. And plus, Allen's taking a 1.5 year layoff, talking about moving up to 55 because he can't make the weight anymore. Like I just feel like Silva should be able to KO him with ease or win a decision, even if it goes there. So give me Gene Silva by round 1 knockout. Oh, PU. We got the worst main card fight ever made here in Natalia Silva versus Rose Namajunas. You're not getting an in-depth fight breakdown. I'm not telling you what Natalia Silva and Rose Namajunas is good at. What I'm telling you is Natalia Silva is going to win by dancing around at range and doing nothing, and Rose Namajunas is just going to stare at her. There you go. I'm moving on. Alright, back to something I actually care about. Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Derek Lewis. Pretty sick featured fight, I won't lie. Got an absolute banger here, should end in a KO. On the side of Waldo Cortez Acosta, we have a fighter who had quite the insane 2025, as he went from this boring, unranked point fighter who was emoting on Old Man Arlovsky to heavyweights. Getting some pretty insane KOs. I mean, he knocked out Ante Delija after getting the eye poked. Like, that was crazy. And then he walks in on a 3 days notice and KOs the GOAT, Shamil the Blob Gaziev, the GOAT of the sport. Like, that's insane, bro. And he's now top 5 in the division, is trying to lock up a title shot. Now, on the side of Derek Lewis, there's a lot of these guys on this card, but Derek Lewis is one of the most confusing fighters in UFC history. As he'll stand around, I'm not joking, doing literally nothing, just staring at you, blankly, before landing a random bomb and getting a highlight KO and throwing his pants in the crowd. Weirdly enough, actually, Derek Lewis is having a career resurgence. I mean, he's nearly 41 years old, but he's not showing it. He's coming off back-to-back KO wins over Rodrigo Nascimento and Talos and Texera in the main event at UFC Nashville, which is pretty sick. Now for my final prediction, tough one because both these guys have big KO power, but I'm gonna take my boy Waldo by round 1 knockout. Of course, I feel like Lewis could obviously fluke this, but I just think Waldo has a granite chin, which he showed because this dude was literally eating clean shots from Sergey Pavlovich and emoting on him. And I just think, especially with how much, like, when Lewis throws his big bombs, like, they're telegraphed, I won't lie. Like, with Waldo's, counter punching ability, I think that Lewis will eventually, sometime in the first round, he's just going to throw a big bomb and Waldo will counter him off it and catch him and put him to sleep. And probably get himself pretty close to a title shot. So give me Waldo Cortez Acosta by round 1 TKO. Alright, for our co-main event, we got a pretty exciting one here. We got Sugar Sean O'Malley versus not great losses to Merab, which Merab's an amazing fighter, but he just did not look good at all in these fights. And really showed some holes in his wrestling. After those 2 fights now, though, he's getting another striker and he's looking to snap a 2-fight skid. On the side of Song Yadong, we have another pretty exciting bantamweight who has pretty great power and is finally looking to secure that title shot after failing twice to Peter Yan and Corey Sandhagen in competitive fights. Just ultimately wasn't able to pick up the wins there. Song also has the ability to wrestle, which could make this matchup interesting. Now my final prediction, I'm picking Sugar Sean O'Malley by decision. I just think that Sean is it's going to be a pretty easy win for Sean, if I'm being honest. As Song has explosive power and decent takedowns, but I feel Sean should just be able to manage the distance well, and even if Song does take him down, he doesn't really have a great ability to control people on the ground, and Sugar should be able to get up and just, piece him up on the feet. Probably 30-27 or 29-28 at worst. Give me Sean O'Malley by points. Next on the card, we got Justin Gaethje versus Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. This is the people's main event right here. $5. What am I saying? $5 McDonald's interim belt, baby. Got that McDonald's toy. Like, what you know about it? On the side of Justin Gaethje, we have a guy who's been around the lightweight division forever and is known for his insane KO power and his willingness to brawl. He's kind of in a weird spot career-wise, as he's on a what one fight win streak over Rafael Fiziev, and before that got slept brutally by Max. He can pretend like it didn't happen. We all saw it at UFC 300, while also being submitted in every undisputed title fight he's been in. Now, though, he's trying to secure himself one more. He's 3-2 in his last 5. Has picked up some really good wins. Head kick KO over Dustin Poirier. 2 wins over Rafael Fiziev. I mean, like, and he's just trying to secure one last title shot. Then on the side of Paddy Pimblett, we have a fighter that's very popular and is hyped up heavily by the UFC. I mean, he's always had amazing BJJ, but at the start of his career, I won't lie, he was kind of a bum striking-wise, as he was literally getting caught by random guys like Luigi Vandagernobi, or whatever that guy's name is he fought in his debut, and got a robbery win over Jared Gordon. The streets know Jared Gordon won that fight. The streets know. The streets know. However, in his last 2 fights against Bobby Green and Michael Chandler, he's shown mass improvements in his distance management, like really well, just managing distance using his, long reach and frame. And he just fights a lot smarter on the feet, waiting for the grappling to open up, and is now, after fighting all these washed old men, getting his first real test against Justin Gaethje. So for my final prediction, I'm very narrowly picking Paddy Pimblett by round 3 submission. I won't lie, I've been fence sitting this one a bit. It's a hard fight to pick, as I've thought about picking both, but I've ultimately decided to pick Paddy, as I like the improvements he's made in his distance management to stay out of big shots in the feet. And I just imagine in another 7 months, he's made even more improvements to his game. And while he's not a great wrestler by any means, I feel like Gaethje always just finds, when he fights a grappler, he always finds some way to the ground. Or even when he's fighting strikers, he finds some way to the ground. I mean, against Rafael Fiziev, who's a Muay Thai striker, and in the rematch on short notice, this guy got put in one of the most rare jiu-jitsu positions ever in the reverse triangle. He almost got finished by a reverse triangle by Rafael Fiziev. What are we talking about here? I feel that Gaethje will definitely look great early in this fight, but I just think eventually the fight will hit the ground and Paddy will lock in a sub and win the McDonald's $5 toy BMF belt, baby. So anyways, that's my predictions for today. If y'all agree, if y'all disagree, talk about it in the comments. Anyways, I hope y'all have a great day. Stay tuned for more, and peace.